As you begin exploring this zone, you come to one of our biggest exhibits, the trading pit. Here, players have the opportunity to understand how prices are determined through the interactions of buyers and sellers in markets. In this multiplayer competition-based game, players take role as buyers or sellers. Buyers seek to buy products at the lowest possible price. Sellers seek to sell products at the highest possible price. Through their interaction in the marketplace, they negotiate prices until they reach market equilibrium. Players also deal with changing prices throughout the round as they send and accept offers. The player with the most money at the end of a timed round wins. People learn in many different ways. Here, you get to incorporate your sense of smell to learn about trade. But please don't try to sniff your screen, it doesn't work. Certain spices and foods used to be very expensive because they were so scarce, but because of increased international trade, now you can get them today at relatively low prices. Let's look at two of these items and see if you can guess what they are. The first food was brought back from the Americas to Europe hundreds of years ago. Demand for this fruit made it so expensive that it was considered a status symbol. It is grown in pineries, and you can eat it fresh, canned, and preserved. Can you guess what this fruit is? If you guessed a pineapple, you are correct. Most of the pineapples consumed in the US are imported from Costa Rica or Mexico. The next food was used by the Aztecs and Mayans to make a foamy drink from beans, which they thought had medicinal powers. In the 1700s, technology improved the processing of the beans and thus reduced the price of the product dramatically, making it available to nearly everyone. Can you guess the food? If you said chocolate, you are correct. And did you know the average American eats 12 pounds of chocolate each year? As you may know, trade happens between people in different countries, allowing them to get what they want. The US, for example, exports products like corn and soybeans that go to countries like China or Japan. If you look at the globe, it shows some of the leading exports and imports from around the world. You can also see that places like New Zealand export kiwis and China exports rice. Barter occurs when people trade goods and services for other goods and services without using money. Oftentimes, people trade things that they value less in order to obtain things that they value more. Here's a great example of a real life bartering success story. Steve Ortiz, whom you see here, started off with a free phone that his friend gave him. Over the course of 2 years, and after making 14 trades, Steve became the proud owner of a Porsche convertible. While this is a rather unusual example, most of us have bartered at one point or another. For example, we may have bartered with a friend at the lunch table, exchanging our bag of chips for their dessert. This exhibit allows you to select an inexpensive item and attempt to barter for an item that you really want. It might take several trades to get there, but you also might not get what you want in the end. That's one of the problems with bartering. In order for a trade to happen, both people must want what the other has. This and other challenges with bartering made getting what people want difficult. That is why thousands of years ago, people came up with the first forms of money. Let's go learn about some of those now. While a good portion of the museum focuses on the economy, there is also a really unique display of currency. As you just learned, bartering can help you get the items you want, but it's not the easiest way to do it. Thousands of years ago, people realized the same thing. They recognized that they needed something that would make trade easier, a medium of exchange. Within the case, you can see many forms of the earliest money. You'll notice that some of the items look like coins we use today, but others are very unique, taking the form of knives, axes, and heavy plates. The next exhibit is about something all of you are familiar with when it comes to a medium of exchange, a US penny. But in this case, it is a very large penny. Here stands our giant penny. It stands 8 feet tall, but unfortunately, it can't be used as money. The most common misconception about this coin is the name. The penny is not its real name. It is a nickname derived from the British pence. The actual name of the penny is the cent, or 1 cent coin. There are a lot of pennies in circulation. In fact, the US Mint makes over 7 million pennies a year. Also, if you have heard that the penny costs more to make than it's worth, that's true. A penny costs just under 2 cents to make, even though it's worth only 1 cent. While you aren't able to see our vault on this tour, the vault video exhibit is the next best thing. As mentioned earlier, the money in the vault is protected by a 45-ton vault door. The door is so perfectly balanced that, as you can see here, one of our law enforcement officers is able to open it on his own. But why is there such a huge vault door? That's because the Federal Reserve is the bank for banks. Commercial banks hold a certain amount of currency in their vaults, but they send any excess money for us to hold via armored cars. Once it gets to the bank, our cash department staff take delivery of it. In this video, they're opening the bags from the banks to count the number of bundles. A bundle contains 10 straps of bills, and each strap contains 100 bills. So a bundle contains 1,000 bills. Once the bills are counted in bundles, they are separated by denomination into large cash containers to then be counted by our high-speed processing machines. These machines check to see if a bill is fit or good to be placed back in circulation and verify that each bill in a strap is the same denomination. The machines also intercept suspect counterfeit notes, so they can be taken out of circulation. Old, worn-out notes are then shredded. Many are put in bags and given away in the museum. The fit bills are then stored in the vault until a commercial bank needs them. Located in the center of the museum is the Connections Theater. This 9-panel, multi-dimensional screen features unique videos on a variety of economic and money-related topics. 2 main videos focus on the Fed's history and how trade connects people around the world. Let's take a few minutes to learn about our history with our video, The Fed in 5.
Money. You put it in the bank, and it's there when you want it. But what if you went to the ATM and the bank didn't have your cash? It happened in the past. And that's why the Federal Reserve was created, to keep the financial system stable. The Fed provides short-term loans to banks so they have enough money on hand in times of financial stress. But travel back in time to before 1913. No one was responsible for the health of our banking system. There was no lender of last resort. Why? Because from our country's earliest history, some people opposed a central bank. They feared it would put too much power in too few hands. But as the country grew, frequent banking panics kept the economy on a roller coaster ride, complete with ups and downs, chills and spills. The last straw came in 1907. One of Wall Street's largest financial institutions, the Knickerbocker Trust Company, went bankrupt. Panic was widespread. People raced to withdraw their savings, only to find that banks didn't have cash available. Financier J.P. Morgan and a group of investors rescued the economy with emergency loans to banks. But it was clear that relying on wealthy individuals wasn't the right long-term solution for the nation. It was time for a change. The United States needed a strong central bank that would keep money flowing during times of crisis and help prevent bank runs. To keep power from being concentrated in Washington or Wall Street, lawmakers spread control across the country. The Federal Reserve Act of 1913 established 12 independent reserve banks, in addition to a board of governors in Washington. The structure would insulate the Fed from partisan politics and powerful financial interests. Over time, the Fed learned how the supply of money and credit affects financial markets and the economy. By the 1950s, the Fed was working to counter the ups and downs of booms and busts and limit inflation. In the late 70s, a new crisis hit.
Bad news on the inflation front. Wholesale prices were up again in February.
High unemployment with high inflation challenged America and the Fed. Oil price hikes and poor policy choices made the situation worse. In 1979, Paul Volcker was appointed Fed chairman. Volcker and the Federal Open Market Committee put the brakes on inflation. They reduced the growth of the money supply and raised interest rates. Once inflation was back in check, the economy started growing again and unemployment fell.
Breaking news here. Stocks all around the world are tanking.
More than 500,000 Americans lost their jobs last month. That is the worst month for job losses.
More recently, in 2008, the Fed responded to the largest financial crisis since the Great Depression. Many major financial institutions were on the verge of collapse. Unemployment skyrocketed.
The Federal Reserve is more than happy to try to work with you on
The
specific.
Fed made emergency loans to stabilize the financial system, and then purchased bonds to lower interest rates and help stimulate the economy. Though the Fed wasn't able to prevent what has been called the Great Recession, its actions helped keep the situation from being much worse. Beyond financial crises, there will always be unforeseen events and natural disasters. The Fed can do a lot to cushion their economic impact and keep money flowing. So the next time you reach into your wallet or drop by an ATM, take a look at one of the bills and find the words Federal Reserve Note. And remember, the Fed's goal is to help keep the economy healthy.
Let's take a quick break to see what you have learned.